Morning, good afternoon, good evening, you all. It's my pleasure to come here and welcome you for the second session of the audit steering group for the Ocean Infohub project. Special thanks to Mr. Vladimir Riabini and Mr. Gert Veriet for being here and contribute to brightening this meeting with your presence. Now we pass to some administrative arrangements. Please, Elsa, you have the floor.
Thank you very much and welcome everybody. Please, some recommendations. Wear a headset if possible to avoid background noise. Mute your microphone and keep it on mute unless you are speaking in plenary. Please close all unnecessary applications. Now that we begin the meeting, you have an interpretation icon. It's a globe icon at the bottom of your Zoom screen. Please choose the language of your preference. We have simultaneous interpretation in Spanish, English, and French. Please enter any questions or interventions into the chat window. Please note the meeting will be recorded and may be available online, together with all presentations. Thank you very much and enjoy your event. Bienvenidos. Si es posible, use auriculares para evitar el ruido.
Welcome. If possible, use headsets to avoid background noise. Mute your microphone and keep it muted unless you speak during the plenary session. Close all unnecessary applications and please, on the globe icon on the bottom right-hand side of your screen, select the language of your choice for interpretation purposes and also post any questions or participation on the chat Please be aware that the session will be recorded and will be available online together with all presentations. Federico, the floor is yours.
Your mic.
Sorry. Thank you, Elsa. We will now pass to some welcome words from Vladimir Ryabinin and later from Mr. Gert Weret, but we'll welcome you on behalf of IOC, of UNESCO, and on behalf of the government of Flanders. Vladimir, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, dear Federica, Mr. Chair. And I indeed see a lot of people that are coming from totally different time zones. So good time of the day for all the participants. So I will be very quick. My work today is just to greet you on behalf of the Environmental Oceanography Commission of UNESCO or IOC. This is the second meeting, you know nearly everything. So the time is now to move forward. I would like also to thank once again Gert and Jens Weret, and also in his name the government of Flanders for making this project possible. And you know, this is a very significant contribution to the future of the ocean. You know, I would like to say that during recent months, the already high pace of activities in the ocean science in the decade, in the work on ocean conservation, management of the ocean, all of that is now increasing its pace. And I think the work on the data as well. IOC endorsed one of the project called DITA, Digital Twin of the Ocean, as a decade program. And I would like also to say that we are engaged in many discussions with key stakeholders. So ocean is now more and more in the center of attention when it comes to climate, biodiversity, ocean economy, also in the Convention on the Law of the Sea through the biodiversity beyond areas of national jurisdiction, a legal instrument that would be working in the high seas. So ocean is coming nearly everywhere. I confirm that there will be now, so far, the plan is to conduct the second conference of United Nations on the ocean from 27th to the June next year to the 1st of July. And also the President Macron of France announced the One Ocean Summit. So ocean is nearly everywhere, and it is believed for the first time, I think, in history, that the data and the work on data opens huge possibilities for managing the ocean. So what you're going to do in Ocean Infohub is create foundations of Ocean Data Information System, ODIS, and capitalizing also on ODISCAT. So I think we're unrolling, I think, one of the most important activities in IOC. So thank you, Flanders, for this. Thank you, everyone, for doing that very important work. And this work will have very important role for the future of oceanography of the ocean. And we, because of that, need a very active, productive, and very clever formulation of all activities in the work packages of Ocean Infohub. Good luck. Thanks very much. And we are with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Vladimir. Mr. Gert Weret,
yeah, Mr.
Chairman. Is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Executive Secretary, dear Federico and Vladimir. Thank you for your very kind words, and colleagues in Ostend, dear participants and other colleagues. I'm Gert Weret. I work for the Flanders Department of Economy, Science and Innovation, and I foster natural sciences in our region. And I'm also participating in the IOC delegation for Belgium. And the IOC Ocean Infohub project, we think, is a very timely initiative to create the right interoperability between a number of data and information sources that allow a dynamic interaction between providers and users. And I stress this word dynamic because I think this is the key to the future, that we're not just pushing information out there, but we allow users and providers to interact with it. And this relates to the concept of a clearinghouse for transferring of marine technology, which is one of the prominent elements in the IOC guidelines and criteria on the transfer of marine technology, which dates from some 15 years ago. In the motivation for the funding of this particular project, our Flanders government in 2019 highlighted the following elements as particularly strong elements in the project proposal. That was that there were clear connections with the UN and the IOC international programs, the Agenda 2030, the UN Decade, Samoa, BBNJ, they were all clearly in evidence. And that it allows the delivery of commonly identified priorities in the marine science community with particular attention to the needs of small island developing states and least developing countries. Furthermore, it capitalizes on a lot of existing developments that IOC has already undertaking. All these information systems that the IOD program and others have developed over the years can be sort of formatted and accessed in a new way. And so it aligns with many other initiatives, and it focuses very clearly on the interoperability. Furthermore, I think the project focuses very strongly on the participation of the widest possible range of end user communities. This is text from the project proposal. It will ensure that the products and services are really useful to the end users. And the architecture of this project makes it so that there is a strong focus, of course, on national and regional involvement, while also providing a global umbrella with a similar architecture across different regions on the globe. So to conclude, let me call on all the participants here today, to especially those of the regional nodes, to make this happen to the largest extent possible, that this interaction between users and providers is brought alive, and so that this really becomes technology from people for people. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gert Vieret, for your words. And principally, thank you very much for your strong support of your government to this project. From now, I will briefly describe the items to follow off the agenda. Then we just had the opening remarks and administrative arrangements. Now, we have now the adoption of the agenda, and followed by an overview of the Ocean Infohub project by Lucy Scott and her team. This is a very important item. Then, following, we have the budget issues, report and actions from steering group, Ocean Infohub, first section. Call for candidates to elect the chair. Dates for the next meeting. This is the third section of steering group Ocean Infohub. And closing remarks. If you agree with the topics, please remain as you are. No remarks. The agenda is adopted. Then we will pass over the overview of the Ocean Infohub work plan and deliverable. Lucy, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Federico, and welcome everyone to the second session of the steering group for the Ocean Infohub project. Thank you very much, Vladimir and Kurt, for setting the scene so well and setting out the objectives of the project as we move forward in our second year. I have an overview of the work packages 1 to 5 of the project to show together with the Ocean Infohub team, the progress and where we are today. for your feedback. So this is session A of 2 sessions. As you know, there are 2 duplicate sessions which have been arranged to allow for time differences, geographic differences, and that both of the sessions will have the same agenda. So to start with, as you would already know, the project is a global initiative to improve access to marine and coastal data and information. It's a 3-year project that commenced in April 2020, and it's funded by the government of Flanders, Kingdom of Belgium, and we're very grateful for the support in enabling the project. Our objective, our main objective, is to develop interoperability between existing information systems, thus enabling the flow of information to end users and exchange between existing databases. We agreed at the last steering group session not to present a detailed overview of the project, but this has rather been circulated in advance of the meeting, and this was requested by steering group members to allow us to focus more on the work plan and time for discussion at this meeting. So in summary, the project has 5 work packages, and we're on track with no major technical delays. Of course, there have been changes to the work plan due to the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic. The project has 5 work packages. These are project management in work package 1, technology development in work package 2, establishment and support of the global hub and regional nodes in work package 3, training and capacity development of regional nodes in work package 4, and work package 5, which is concerned with communications, user marketing, and feedback. In reaching our milestones, great thanks are due to the project office team. As many of you know, I've been based in South Africa at my home office, and this has been since the beginning of the project. So we were already under lockdown, and so this project has been conducted entirely remotely with our team distributed across the world. So grateful thanks for the team at the project office, particularly Peter, Kristen, Sophie, Anna, and Peter. Of course, also specifically with the training and capacity development, Claudia and Johanna, and then other colleagues, Ward, Sarah, Kristen, Pauline, and Greg. Also like to thank again the government of Flanders for the funding support to enable the project, as well as some co-financing, which has come from NORAD for some of the Africa activities. I'd like to thank the Work Package 2 Secretariat, who have worked tirelessly on advising and guiding this work. Our chair, Pierluigi Buttigieg, and co-chair Tobias Spears, and our contractor, Doug Falls. I'd like to also thank our large Work Package 2 working group for all of the input over our working platforms, our 3 regional coordination teams in Africa, in the Latin America and Caribbean region, and in the Pacific Small Island Developing States, led by Miko Adido, Cesar Toro, Zulfikar Beg, and Paul Anderson, respectively, as well as all of our implementation partners and other project partners. A brief overview of project status shows where we started in April 2020 with project commencement. Some time taken to put project tools and working group teams in place. Time allowed for a discussion and an agreed way forward for the development of the ODIS architecture, and 6 priority themes on which we ended up focusing. We had held our first steering group session in September of 2020. We hired our contractor for the development of the ODIS architecture and proof of concept in January of this year. And we had our first ODIS proof of concept in March of this year, so Q1. Other sources which were indexed into the Ocean Infohub and ODIS graph, which we'll explain a little bit later in more detail, include OBIS in April, Aquedox and OBPS in May, and a regional demonstration, which is Cordio's Marine Spatial Atlas for the Western Indian Ocean, indexed in August, and we are here in October 2021 with the second steering group session. Then, just very briefly, we have developed the Ocean Data and Information System architecture with a proof of concept. It's been tested and fully documented to enable interoperability with local regional informatic infrastructures, We'll share more detail on this later because the documentation is evolving, obviously, as new implementation partners join and the documentation is improved. We have some examples of marinetraining.eu, Aqueducts, Ocean Expert, OBIS, and the Ocean Best Practices System, as well as Cordio's MASPA, WEO, Thematic Hub, and the Marine Institute indexed into the OIH graph. And we have other regional partners which are active online and are currently working with us on ongoing development. In total, we're working with 28 implementation partners from the 3 regions and around the world. A reference implementation of the Global Hub server-side architecture demonstrates the facility to search across these 7 working implementations. This is available online as a demonstration only, and you can see 2 examples I've put up here. On the left, a search for ocean literacy returns results from the Ocean Best Practices System, Aqueducts, and Ocean Expert, and a search for datasets Emodinate, although Emodinate is not indexed in the graph, returns results from Ocean Best Practices. We'll discuss the technology details in some more detail under work package 2. So that was a brief update of where we are with the project at the moment. And now I'll move briefly through each of the work packages to reflect status of each and current activities. So work package 1 is related to project management, coordination, and evaluation. And this includes steering group meetings, such as the one that we're currently at. Our timeline and activities include monthly reports and reports of the project manager, steering group meetings, and we are currently in 2021 Q4. So in all of the project timeline tables, you'll see the yellow highlighting reflects the quarter in which we currently are. So we are busy with the steering group meeting, and the report obviously will be finalized after this meeting has been concluded. Our deliverables include a tracking sheet for all project deliverables maintained, monthly reports, steering group meeting convened, general administration tasks. And our objectives for the quarter moving forward include ongoing tracking of project deliverables, planning of the 3rd session of the steering group, depending on how the steering group would like to hold this, and general administration tasks continued. And I'll pause for a moment to hand back to Federico in case there are any questions on work package 1.
Thank you, Lucy. Now we have a couple of minutes for discuss this item and answer a question that may be arise from you. The floor is open. We have a question from Peter Piesersen from IODE office. And what data sources are now on the global hub? Lucy?
Thanks, Peter. The data sources now on the global hub include, well, that have been indexed into the OIH graph, include Ocean Best Practices, Ocean Biodiversity Information System, Ocean Expert, Aqueducts, marinetraining.eu, and this includes the regional CLME Plus for the Latin America and Caribbean region, Cordio's MASPA, WEO, and the Marine Institute of Ireland. We understand that the Marine Institute of Ireland data was just indexed once, so it was a once-off, but the other data resources have been indexed more than once. And in total, we're working with 28 implementation partners. So in addition to those 7, we have 21 who have expressed an interest in implementing ODIS and with whom we are working actively.
Any other question? Any other remark? Please feel free to ask.
Hi, can you hear me? This is Katrien Lescroat from Flanders Marine Institute. Put on my camera. Just a quick question. I'm very keen to understand what the particularity of the participation of the Marine Institute is, and I assume that I can find the details of the other 28, specifically the national institutes. I'll be able to find them in the report. Sorry, I haven't checked that yet. Thank you.
No problem at all. So we've got a spreadsheet which is available online, and the link is in the report for everyone's reference. The link will also appear later on in this PowerPoint, and the spreadsheet is a Google Sheet. We update it regularly, and that shows all of the 28 partners, which of the data categories they are most interested in sharing or accessing, and also keeps a track of the communication and the status of implementation. So, and Katrien, that is available. I can also just send the link directly to you. Frederico, we can, if there are no further questions, and there might be more questions when we come to the technical aspects of the report. So that's fine.
Thank you, Lucy. Then we can move on to the work packet 2.
Thanks, Frederico. So under work package 2, the work package covers the technical developments needed to support the implementation of Ocean Infohub nodes and a proof of concept ODIS reference architecture, which will allow the nodes to interoperate with each other and external systems. Thank you to those who've pointed out that there is a numbering inconsistency in the annotated agenda. So the numbering for work package 2 and thereafter is not correct, but for reference in this meeting, let's use the numbers as printed, and these will be corrected in the report. I'll briefly show the overview of the timeline and activities of work package 2, but each of these individual items will be presented independently. And for that, I'll hand over to the chair of work package 2, Pierluigi Buttigieg. Pierluigi, over to you.
Thank you, Lucy. Welcome all, and it's my pleasure to present our progress in work package 2. As you saw from the previous slide, we are on track despite complications this year, of course, with the pandemic. But in terms of our deliverables and our tasks, our global hub technology framework has been developed, as Lucy showed in the beginning of her presentation. We have already demonstrated that searching across the framework, searching across the knowledge graph that connects all of our partners is now possible, and it is well tested and documented. That is a very key emphasis of our technical working group, that the documentation of how we did it is well recorded and well presented. This is particularly important when it comes to our overall goal of democratizing the system, of making it possible for other partners, even after this project ends, to continue the work and continue growing the system. We do now have that basis, and our next objective is to, as we have a call open for a contract here, to develop a more attractive user interface and user experience around a search interface, a web search interface for the global hub that will make it more evident of what has already been done on the technology side. It's bringing it forward to the end user to see it and experience it. But on the side of the basis and the foundation, it's quite secure and it's well tested with a number of implementation partners, which is growing, as Lucy has expressed. Next slide, please. When it comes then to the development of technology for regions, again, a key emphasis of the OIH project and also ODIS underneath it is that all the regions should be able to participate in the system and their local and regional needs are well heard. On that front, we have contacted our regional partners in IOCAFRICA, Invermar in the LAC region, SPREP and SBC in the Pacific, and had multiple meetings with them, both technical and management meetings, to make sure that we can connect to some of their main resources, and especially where capacity is not as prominent, make sure that those can be connected to the graph and be as searchable as any other resource. So again, that is the normalization of digital presence and digital inclusivity. There is also regional data present in the knowledge graph, which is currently searchable. So our contractor, together with our technical team, has ensured that it is possible to access information and knowledge from these regions using our very lightweight interoperation framework, which we hope to grow as the project proceeds and as other projects engage with us. This is also being used as a springboard to show the spirit of Ocean Infohub and of the ODIS system that, yes, the technology is a key part of it, but the participation is even more important. And with these regions showing the way, we hope that more partners will enjoy the possibilities of linking with us and show that it is possible. Again, leveraging the documentation that has been provided and the clear guidance that we're formulating. Next slide, please. One of the key aspects to take this forward will be to bring the Ocean Infohub technology and ODIS technology into existing catalogs of data sources that have been well established in the IOC for a number of years. The ODIS CAT, or the ODIS catalog of sources, is very essential for that. And we have ongoing activities to update records in ODIS CAT to keep it fresh, and then also to transition it from a registration system to something more dynamically updated, as our introductory speakers have mentioned. That's the key for future digital systems, that they can dynamically react to changes in the digital ecosystem without as much human interaction as we have now. That will keep this growing complexity, this growing volume, manageable across different regions and especially centrally. In terms of then developing ODIS, the actual ocean data information system, remember this is the sum of its parts. There is no central ODIS. Everyone who participates is a part of ODIS. So those core meetings, those with our partners and our secretariat, sharing our code on GitHub, communicating as openly and freely as we can with our Slack space, those have been instrumental to make sure that ODIS serves the needs of many and hears the voices of many at this early stage, even at this early stage, to make sure that as we grow the project, that representation is part of our DNA, so to speak. When it comes to later on for 4315, the platforms established for exchanging this information, they have been done. We are exchanging code, we are exchanging guidance, documentation, but also communication threads that are open for all to see so that all of our partners can learn from one another and we can learn from them. When it comes forward into saying how we will take this further, how we will extend the ODIS architecture, we have formulated the plan. We have formed a new terms of reference for a next contract to take our foundational work and begin extending it to other data types outside the 6 thematic areas that we started with. Those data types have been formulated based on the needs we have heard expressed from our partners. And again, we hope to continue that process of consultation to cover things like hazards and disasters, economic opportunities, blue growth, etc. Next slide, please. The next terms of reference, as mentioned previously, is quite key. The next contractor is a test for us to see how generalizable and how easy it is for one contractor to pick up the work of others in the system. So we have a number of terms of reference and a number of calls open. And this for us is a very important technical test that the system we're engineering is not vulnerable to simply changing the contract, that one consultant's work can be worked on by another. We have tried our best to keep the technology modular, simple, well-defined, well-documented to allow this to happen. In order for this to be able to grow over the years, over multiple projects, and hopefully with independent partners contributing asynchronously and dynamically to the whole project. That is indeed why we have made all of our code available. We hope to engage more contractors from diverse backgrounds into this and test that with our regional partners to make sure that their developers can also implement the interface technologies. And we will continue to make our documentation available in the book that you see linked there. Thank you. Next slide. Right. So further deliverables, the publication of the ODIS reference architecture, that is, those are the specifications that let people know how to write their code and how to develop their technology, again, has all been wrapped up in that same book. You see, that's a very essential link. And we keep it that way so that it is a manual that can itself be archived in systems like the Ocean Best Practices system dynamically. It's a living document, and it's linked directly to the code. So the architecture is available, as well as descriptions on the principles behind ODIS. So it's not just raw technical documentation. It also describes the philosophy, the spirit of it, again, under IOC, under neutrality and global reach, in order to bring our national and regional partners together in a digital system. The specifications for automatic validation, and on my part, this is something that I find very important and very exciting. Oftentimes, technology is developed to be visually impressive, but underneath the interfaces, underneath the compelling maps, often you're never sure if the technology is sound and if it's secure. We are very happy that now we have specifications that allow automatic validation of this graph that we built to check the health of the system underneath the interfaces that will come in the next phase when we have our developers. Next slide, please. Right. Now, one of the main goals is, of course, to be able to allow one participant in ODIS, one node, as we call it, one node in the network, to be able to cross-reference and discover content from others. Again, in that same book, in one of the sub-chapters of that book, we have discussed and described how to do that, and also how to attribute the source of data and the provenance, the PROV approaches, where the data came from. This will become increasingly important as we have more projects like Ditto, as was mentioned by Vladimir, and others, pulling data from multiple sources together to create simple interfaces. The origin of that data, who checked it, who validated it, is a very important trail to have, and we hope to leverage these web standards to make sure that that is not forgotten in the excitement of moving all of this data to create impressive impacts. So that's one of our deliverables there. We have some definition of that, and we will like to test that as more data starts flowing through the graph. Some early tests are available, and the principles are outlined, but indeed, it will take a little more testing to fully validate that this is operational. At the bottom, you will see a little bit of technical language that these capabilities are already implemented in the graph, in the sense that you can ask the graph questions about where something came from. You can ask it to try to link different data sources with a language called Sparkle, that is the language you use to talk to the graph. And some examples have been documented. Again, we hope to grow the library of those cases, and as more definitions of data sharing exchange standards come out of ODIS ARC, it will become more, sorry about that, it'll become more tractable to then cross-reference more. Move ahead. Right. Again, when it comes to then the diagnostics, the health checks, and other things underneath it, we would like to also report metrics. Building the graph is one thing, but monitoring who is participating, who is sharing what kind of data, and what have they done in order to provide that. It connects to the previous discussion on the provenance of the data. And that's also one of our aspects here in this deliverable, a metric reporting functionality. Very fortunately, the way that we've developed the technology allows us then to automatically generate the metrics. So there isn't much to do there aside from query that same central graph technology, that graph backend, in order to provide metrics on the partners, what kind of data they're sharing, what kind of needs they may have, And we hope, again, in consultation, to be able to generate metrics that make sense not only to Ocean Infohub centrally, but also to the regions and the individual nodes where possible. Next slide. Right. As you can see, there's a lot of technical work that has been done. So excuse the many slides here. But one of the objectives is, of course, to show that this is a working technology. And that connects to this deliverable. At least 2 working implementations of this architecture are operational in regional node systems, and also systems that assemble global resources. So as you see there, many of the IOC associated systems like Aquedocs, Ocean Best Practices, Ocean Expert, they're already connected to the graph, and they are also hubs collecting regional information. In some cases, where regions do not have local data repositories that share the data into the graph, we can leverage UNESCO IOC systems to gather that information and automatically put it into the graph. So we simplify the process for where capacity does not exist, again, as a stepping stone to establishing capacity and developing capacity where it's lacking. So that's happening, but indeed we do have some examples of regional systems pushing data into the graph. And again, all the documentation of how they do that is made available to other partners for inspiration, for ideas, etc. Indeed, where support is provided, and again, thank you to the government of Flanders for this, to the regional partners to help them connect to the graph, all of their documentation and code has been asked to be open source, again, to allow people to leverage this and develop their own solutions to comply with the ODIS architecture specifications. There, as Lucy mentioned earlier, the proof of concept working spreadsheet, there's a link available there. We will also put it into the chat. It's also available in the report. That will keep track of these implementation partners, who has actually connected to the graph as we work through them and as we share more documentation and learn about how they have implemented it, what worked for them easily, and also where difficulties arise. Where we detect the difficulties, that will be the target for our next contractors to improve the system or the documentation or training materials to help people along. Next slide. Moving on, so again, finalizing the deliverables, and there were quite a number for this year. We have, of course, needed a lot of coordination to make this happen. And again, thank you to Lucy in particular for keeping us well coordinated. It is not easy to coordinate technical people, but she did it. She did a wonderful job. And we had a series of meetings where we made sure that the different technical cultures, different digital cultures, and again, within a UNESCO conference, a UNESCO context, I think that's a key element. There are different digital cultures across different regions. And those meetings helped us bring that together, make sure that we understand each other, not just in the raw technical capacity, but in the approaches and the visions that we have. And we have aligned them in our technical meetings. We also have an example with Eurocian, one of our implementation partners, where we're getting very close to the integration of their services into the graph, again, with a little bit of help and a terms of reference written between us. These help structure the expectations, and those meetings over the formulation of the expectations is creating a robust digital framework for more exciting things on top of a foundational infrastructure that is neutral and that is global. There's also work going on with marinetraining.eu to share training opportunities, which of course in themselves offer capacity development, which can be amplified and augmented by participating in a global digital system to be more visible to others and hopefully to promote greater education in the marine and ocean sector. Moving on. Right, moving on then after this month and going into the next year, the global hub, the demonstration of Ocean Infohub as an example of what you can do with this interlinked set of partners using ODIS architecture, that will be one of our key objectives to make it visible, all the back-end technical work that we've checked, that we've secured, that we've documented. Now it's the time to express it. And we also thank the project formulation that it allowed us to focus on the foundation first before moving on to the demonstration of what it can do. So we're very excited to then be able to show what we have done and how robust that is. Further work will also involve the development of more regional nodes. As we have our partners, we have already laid the foundation, the groundwork, so to speak, of our collaboration. And we will then continue that with the next objective, working with ODIS CAT to make sure things are tracked and we can mature the existing system to be more automated. Otis itself, that partnership of nodes that are sharing data across the ocean, that is another thing we would like to grow or nurture at this early stage and show others how to do it so that it can be done independently once this project concludes and other projects take up the helm. Of course, then there will still be lots of human interaction in this technical work. And that, as I said, is very key to keep the cultures talking to one another, to understand the similarities and the differences, and then to implement technology that is sensitive to how people do things in their region and their regional priorities. So we will continue that series of meetings to ensure that the human aspect of our technical work package is well aligned. Next. Thank you. So that's all from us there. And yes, we open the floor for questions and discussions. Back to you, Federico. Thank you.
Thank you, Pierluigi, for your very clear and didactic presentation. And now the floor is open for questions and discussion. And at first we have one question from the chat. I think that the question is, could you share your strategy to introduce the emerging capability with other UN agencies to explore their interest, participation, and interoperability? Then I think we have an answer from Peter Peterson. Lucy asked for the floor.
Thank you, Federico, and thank you, Arthur, for the question. Indeed, Peter has answered it, and I know that Pierluigi also probably would like to make a contribution to the answer. Just briefly to add to that, just after the project commenced, we did participate in the meeting which was convened for UN agencies, for data sharing between UN agencies. So we were well represented there, as were other IOD projects. And that was soon followed by a second meeting on international data sharing among non-UN agencies. So there was active follow-up with participation at both of those meetings. Yes, as Peter says, that was in 2020. And then subsequently, we've had direct communication with a number of agencies, including, for example, the WMO through the WMO Data Conference, and then following that, discussing the development of the different interoperability platforms between WIS2 and ODIS. And we also have members of our technical working group, such as Tobias, who are involved in both initiatives to keep the communication channels open. And I know that Pierluigi is also being well represented on other forums. Pierluigi, would you like to add as well?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think the overall strategy is a careful representation of ODIS, of course, wide dissemination, but also direct contact with partners that we think are becoming closer to this goal. So, for example, at our recent Ocean Best Practices workshop, 2 weeks ago or so, we co-hosted the launch of the Global Platform for Marine Litter, GPML groups, and that's in collaboration with UN Environment. And through that data sharing platform, there is existing capacity and interest to plug into systems that are then linked to UN Environment, for example, which are also using similar semantic technologies in their systems. So there have already been existing links to those systems, which came into the original conception of ODIS and our strategy. And those links are what we intend to grow as these systems mature. I think yesterday, indeed, there was a UN World Data Forum initiative, and CoData hosted a session where I described some of our work. And the UNDRR, Disaster Resilience and Reduction in Resilience, UNDRR, was present, and also using some of the same technologies that we will use in ODIS. Now, it is not to say that they will use ODIS, but that's the beauty of the technical implementation. As we are focusing on common web standards, as Adam Ledbetter's response in the chat shows, you don't have to know about ODIS right away in order to already be converging with its interoperability approach, because we're looking outward to more common web standards. Therefore, the work of identifying those partners and aligning is much easier. But largely the overall strategy is a careful selection of partners that we will ask to test at this early phase, and then we will expose those demonstrations, describe them, and hopefully, well, more than hopefully, we're quite confident, in fact, that that will inspire the next round of interoperation because of how approachable it is, because we're not doing anything so specifically tailored to one system that other people will have to disrupt what they do. That approach and that philosophy is helping us a great deal. But again, I think it's well heard, and I think indeed we should start recording as part of our reporting more accurately UN agency links and digital links as part of work package 2. So I think we'll make a note of that. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucy. Thank you, Pierluigi. And thank you, Arthur, for your question. And now I think we can move on to work package number 3.
Thank you, Federico. Work package 3 enables the establishment of a global hub and 3 regional nodes, Africa and the Pacific Island developing states at the operational level. The technical aspects of the developments have been covered by work package 2. So this work package is concerned with setting up procedures and mechanisms, identifying and sourcing content, developing national and regional networks, and setting up of matchmaking services and in-depth assistance to end users. With regards to the timeline, we have the global node establishment and operation, the LAC node, and the IOCAFRICA node, and the Pacific State. With regards to deliverables between October last year and September this year, we have technical aspects which have been reported under work package 2. And in addition to that, the project has held 77 meetings under this work package 3 across the 3 regions, as well as with global partners. 3 dedicated OIH webinars have been held, and projects have participated in numerous other meetings and events, some of which are reported under work package 5 and not under work package 3. And I'll now hand over to the regional coordinators to provide a brief regional report for each region, the Latin America and Caribbean region, and the third will be Pacific Small Island Developing States. Session B, in fact, is the session that is most suitable for the Pacific region. So I don't expect any Pacific colleagues to be present at session A, in which case I will run through a few slides briefly for them. Thank you. So I'd like to hand over to Mika Odido for the Africa presentation.
Thank you very much, Mosi. Why run the presentation from my side or you do it?
Please start again.
Just a minute.
All right, now it's good.
Could we have the next slide then? So I'll divide my presentation into 4, looking at the stakeholder consultations that we've had in the region, engaging of partners, updating and quality control of relevant databases that we've been working on, and other supporting activities that contribute to the OIH. Next slide, please. One of the things that we've really focused on in the last year is engaging stakeholders, sharing with them information on regional projects, involved in data and information management and data infrastructure development in Africa, identifying what exists that could be potential partners with the Ocean Infohub, looking at what are some of the gaps that are not yet covered by any project, and how we can work together in developing such databases, and looking at some of the mechanisms for collaboration and reviewing progress in implementation of Ocean Infohub. We've had 2 continental webinars. June 10th was the inception, June 10th in 2020, and then June 10th, 2021 to review the progress. One of the key decisions that we reached during the discussions we had in the region was the importance of involving the NODCs, especially those that were established during the time of ODINAFRICA. And then the other item we agreed on was that it was important that each of the partners that was going to engage in the initiative maintains their own portals, which can then be linked to OIH. Next slide, please. Some of the partners that we have engaged includes the Marco South, which is a project funded through the GMES and Africa of the African Union. CODIO, that's the Coastal Research and Development in the Indian Ocean. It's a major project working on coastal management in the Western Indian Ocean. IUCN, the Regional Remote Sensing Center run by the UNECA, UN Commission for Africa, and the UNEP, Nairobi and Abidjan Convention Secretariats. WIOMSA, the Western Indian Ocean Marine Science Association. So we've had a series of both bilateral meetings with the partners and also joint meetings to look at how we can work together. The partners have submitted documentation on data sources, their data architecture, vocabularies, ontologies, and standards. We've also encouraged the partners, but all of them have joined the WP2 for development of this architecture. And we are discussing with a couple of them already concepts on some initiatives that we could work together on interoperability. Next slide, please. In addition to engaging the partners, one of the things that we've focused on quite a bit in the last year is updating some of the databases that were developed during ODINAFRICA, and also the regional components of some of the global databases. We've looked at the experts and institution Ocean Experts database, especially the African records that have not been updated for long periods, contacting the institutions and experts, and also discussing with digital focal points, providing them with a list of organizations that we have in the database so that they could identify which ones are not there. Also looking at the experts, giving lists to our focal point in the institutions that they can ensure that all the experts in the institutions are in the database. And we've made quite some good progress in updating the African records for Ocean Experts. The other item we've looked at is documents and best practices. We've especially focused on documents, policy, frameworks, and legislation that are relevant to ocean management and ocean sciences. We've collected about 3 records and documents, which we are looking at having included the aqueducts. Currently, they're offline, but we are discussing actively on how to move this forward. On spatial data and maps, we've had a review of oceanographic cruises that have taken place along the African coastline in recent years, and where some of this data is. We've also begun work on updating the African Coastal and Marine Atlas, migrating it to new software, cleaning it up, and further development. This we are doing together with ICANN. We've also begun work on development of a database on training and research opportunities. This with the funding from NORAD, which will significantly contribute to OIH. Over the last few months, we've been collecting data for entry, and hopefully in the next couple of months, we'll begin working on data entry. We are working with the University of Ghent on developing the portal that will be used to serve the data. On the vessels database, we decided to work on a broader database that will include other observations platforms. We are currently undertaking a survey of the ocean observation platforms that are available along the African coastline. On marine-related projects, we've also collected more than 100 new records that we'll use to build on the previous database that we had, but we'll need to change the database structure so that this is in line with the structure that will be used with ODIS. Next slide, please. Some of the other relevant activities that will really contribute to the development of the regional hub is the reactivation of the ODINAFRICA network and its NODCs. We've already had a meeting to discuss how this can be done and what we should focus on as we reactivate the network. The second one is revitalization of the African Coastal and Marine Atlas. Already discussed this and the work that we are doing with ICANN on migration of the Atlas to updated software platform, the cleaning up of the data, training of the Atlas team, and further development of the Atlas. We already reactivated the Atlas board. I already mentioned that we are currently taking a survey of ocean observation along the African coastline. One of the OTG regional training centers is planning a training course which will be relevant to OIH on fundamentals of ocean mapping later this year. And I'd like to conclude by highlighting some of the issues that have come up in the discussions we've had in the region on the UN Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development. Next slide, please. There was discussions on the data-related issues, especially on what really should be the focus in the region. During the regional consultations, we identified the need for an improved focus on user-driven data. We discussed challenges in data sharing, related to lack of common platforms for incompatible metadata and data formats, lack of standard policies in relation to open data access, technical capacity and resource limitations, and lack of trust between organizations to share data. There was a strong feeling that we should have capacity for curating and managing African data in Africa while maintaining connectivity to the global data landscape. So I'll leave it here and invite any comments or questions. Thank you.
Lucy, please. You have the floor.
Thank you
Who's
very much,
next?
Frederico. I think we could move on to Cesar Toro for the presentation on the LAC region, and then I'll present a few slides for the Pacific region, and then we can take questions at the end. So please put questions in the chat, and we can take them at the end of the 3 regional presentations. Thank you.
We are a little bit behind the schedule.
Good morning. Thank you very much for giving me the floor. I would like to report on the establishment of the regional node covering Latin America and the Caribbean, the so-called Latin America and LAC IOCAFRICA Plus regional node at the operational level. During the starting webinar, countries and organizations made a series of recommendations, but I would like to point out on this recommendation on the importance of bringing on board regional partners with 2 distinct characteristics. First of all is those national and regional institutions, organizations with articulation and management capacity. Second, institution, project, or organizations with technical capacity in data management, marine information, and technology transfer. This table that we have here summarizes the Latin America and the Caribbean region priorities for the next quarter on this Work Package 3 and the planned activities beyond this quarter. In other words, 2022 and 2023 activities. So I would like to just to focus on those items that the D3.4, customization of portal, and performance testing and remediation of issues, D3.5, that will start during this quarter and go beyond into 2022 and 2023. As well, there is those tasks, D3.7 and D3.8, establishment of national, regional networks of content providers, as well as populating the regional nodes with content. So those 2 tasks we have been performing, and on this is an ongoing task that is going beyond this year into up to the end of the project, and this is one of the major issues that is an ongoing work. Presently, the institutions and organizations in Latin America and the Caribbean are working on the development of the clearinghouse mechanism, transfer of marine technology as the Latin America and the Caribbean Ocean Infohub regional node. This work is led by INVEMAR, and the objective of the work that we are leading now is to incorporate all these specifications, including identifying new data providers in the region, implement the ODIS architecture, implement harvesting data model to synchronize with the Ocean Infohub Central, and also we are working, as was pointed out, reviewing the table, to include partners that more partners into this work and connected into our regional node and synchronize that information with the Ocean Infohub Central via the ODIS architecture. And those partners include the Caribbean Large Marine Ecosystem Plus Training and Capacity Development Portal, the Sargasso Information Hub and Atlantic Wide Hub, the Caribbean Marine Atlas, and I would like to point out the importance of the CLMA Plus. This is a work that we developed jointly, IOCAFRICA worked jointly with the University of Ghent, and is part of the marine training of the European Union, was supported by the JEF and the UNDP as part of the CLMA Plus project. As well, the importance of having this thematic information hub, such as the Sargassum Information Hub. This is a wider Atlantic hub that includes countries in the Eastern, South Africa, and the Americas. As well, the Caribbean Marine Atlas is one of the sources of information that we have in the region that includes information on integrated coastal management, marine spatial planning, and this is a source of information for blue economy. Important also to the development and strengthening of the national oceanographic data centers and the associated data units, as well as other programs and networks that including vessels, oceanographic vessels, and their availability and performance, other observing programs and data providers. I would like to finally, Mr. Chairman, I would like to just invite everybody to visit the different websites of the portals and hub that the Caribbean Marine Atlas, and as well as the ongoing development of the clean house mechanism, transfer of mining technology, Latin America and the Caribbean regional node, as you can see here in this slide. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Cesar. Then, Lucy, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Federico. I'll share my screen now.
Okay.
To share just a few slides from our Pacific Small Island Developing States region. As I mentioned, session B is more aligned with their awake times. So I'll move through these briefly. Firstly, our two main regional partners are the Pacific Community and the Pacific Regional Environment Program. The Pacific Community is the principal scientific and technical organization supporting sustainable development in the Pacific region, serving 28 member countries. And the Pacific Regional Environment Program is the regional organization charged with protecting and managing the environment, ocean, and natural resources of the Pacific. For your reference, the Pacific Data Hub, which is developed with the support of the Pacific Community, is arranged around a CCAN structure with a Drupal front end. And I've included the links to the Pacific Data Hub on the right. The Pacific Regional Environment Program hosts the Pacific Environment Portal Network, which includes 14 national environment data portals, hosting resources that include tabular data, GIS information, and published reports. I must mention that SPREP and SPC work very closely together. Their online systems are interoperable and they exchange many data sets on a routine basis as between their data hubs. Config data, this is looking at an example. Country-specific data is harvested from a variety of sources and exposed in the 14 national environment data portals, reaching decision makers and government officers. So they have a very clear demonstration of uptake and usefulness of the data that they are sharing through their portals. And the Ocean Infohub could use the same pathway to reach national and regional audiences and make data available that are relevant and timely for decision makers. Some of the possible linkages that were identified early on are through OBPS and the sharing of documents and aqueducts, the sharing of information on experts and institutions, sharing of spatial data and maps, and sharing information on vessels. The Pacific Data Hub was showcased as a great platform for Ocean Infohub links, and SPC has got good capacity to host, develop, and upgrade the system. And it's intended for our OIH developers to work closely with SPC and the Pacific Data Hub And in fact, this has happened over the duration of Doug's contract. He's been working closely with tech counterparts at both SBC and SPREP. The next steps for the region are that a terms of reference is in development for Ocean Infohub support. And this is based on the development of shared vocabularies, building capacities among users, testing curation of global data to country level, so making this visible and useful to member states, possible linking to the Inform project and other resources at SPC, and possibly looking at a data scientist or technician shared across SBC and SPREP. Thank you, Federico.
Thank you, Lucy. From this work package number 4, we have a couple of minutes for questions.
This would be questions across the whole of work package 3, addressing Africa, Latin America, and Pacific.
Now, I forgot to thank Mika, Cesar Toro, and you for your very clear presentations. Thank you. Now the floor is open for question.
Mr. Chairman, if you will allow me to add an item in this discussion while we wait for questions from the floor. Can I?
Sure.
Oh, thank you. I would like just to point out also the importance of the work that we are doing in the region related to the UN Ocean Decade of Ocean Center for Sustainable Development. And here I would like to point out what was the grand challenge that the countries in the region and experts has been moving forward is the need for the grand challenge, and one of the grand challenges we have concerning data is the availability of open access to data, information, and new affordable open source technologies to integrate health system, social science, and cross-sector participation. This is extremely important also to mobilize constituencies for national policy and community decision-making processes. In order to do that, it's extremely important to develop and build capacity for an information access system for data sharing. And this is what we are doing here through the Ocean Information Hub. And there is a direct link between the work that we are doing here at the level of the Ocean Information Info Hub and the needs of the region concerning the development of that dynamic data sharing system. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Cesar, for your clarification. I think that this project strongly contributes for the societal outcome number 6, a transparent and accessible ocean. And I think now we can move on to work package number 4.
Thank you,
Lucy,
Federico.
you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Work package 4 is concerned with training and capacity development of the nodes. And this work package focuses on the development of a series of online training modules and tutorials, as well as written documentation such as manuals. This work package only commenced in 2021, this year. As you can see on our timeline, we have products developed, all except for the in-class training courses, which were obviously not held during 2020 or 2021 so far due to the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic. With regards to development of online training modules, we have an online training course, which is in development at the moment, but most of our materials are online already, and this will be conducted during the week of 25th of October. And this training course is on implementing the ocean data and information systems architecture. So this is using a lot of the documentation that was developed that Pierluigi's described and that was developed by Doug and others to document the ODIS architecture and go through this documentation for those who are interested in implementing ODIS. And this will be delivered together with the Ocean Teacher Global Academy, of course, using the OTGA e-learning platform, and it's part of the OTGA program of training courses. We have operations manuals, for example, the book and the ODIS architecture documentation that's already been shared. And this is online together with our GitHub repository and will be evolving over time. We also have reference videos, which are walkthroughs of the ODIS architecture. And these are going to be components also of the training course. The deliverable online training course, as I mentioned, this will be held between the 25th and 29th of October 2021. It will be asynchronous. We will have 2 live sessions, but most of it will be asynchronous, allowing anyone from any geographic region to complete the course in their own time. I've included a link to the course, but it's not public yet. And training course materials also contributed to the International Coastal Atlas Network Workshop 9, Session 3, which was dedicated to sharing your atlas with the world. And we had a focus on Ocean Infohub and schema.org, as well as the implementation of ODIS. So that was a great opportunity to share ODIS and experiences with Coastal Web Atlas practitioners from around the world. We also contributed to training course materials to the OTGA course held in China in 2021 on ocean data stewardship in the decade of ocean science for sustainable development. The communication skills course has not yet been addressed, nor is in-class training, but this will be considered in 2022. With regards to the online hosting of training materials, as I mentioned, these are online. Our future objectives include further development of the online training modules through translation of training course materials to other languages, through further development of the ODIS architecture documentation, and on holding the online training courses for regional specific needs. So regional specific courses, which will be language and time sensitive to those regions. As I mentioned, in-class training will be considered in 2022. However, at this stage, we obviously look to our colleagues for guidance here, but it's not looking like in-class training courses will be held during 2021. And online hosting of training materials is ongoing. Thank you. That's for work package 4.
Thank you, Lucy. Now we have a couple of minutes for question and discussion about this work package. The floor is open. I see no raised hands. And then we can move to work package number 5. Lucy, please go ahead.
Thank you, Federico. Work package 5 is concerned with communications and engagement activities needed to ensure the relevance and usefulness of the Ocean Infohub global and regional thematic nodes, to promote community participation and to solicit ongoing input in the development of the hub and nodes. So with regards to deliverables and participation in meetings and workshops, which is our first one, altogether, the project is organized or participated in 189 documented virtual meetings webinars, or events since the last steering group meeting. Many of these were internal Work Package 2 or Work Package 3 meetings, but many internal meetings include partners and can also be seen to contribute to Work Package 5. At least 40 events contributed directly to awareness raising about the Ocean Infohub, activities, objectives, and benefits of partnership. So in the last 11 to 12 months, some of these examples include the International Data Sharing Workshop for non-UN IGOs, global and regional organizations and projects, NGO and private sector, the second session of IOC groups of experts on capacity development, the WMO data conference that's been mentioned, UN decade planning meetings in Africa, but not only for Africa. We've also participated in those for the Pacific region and the Western Tropical Atlantic, as well as the CMLME Plus training portal training, JEBCO symposium, mapping the seafloor around Africa, FLIS Marine Science Day, IMDIS conference, IOD 26, the All-Atlantic Data and Policy Forum, and a workshop towards an All-Atlantic data space, IUC and Regional Resources Hub Showcase, Sargassum webinar, and as I just mentioned as well, the International Coastal Atlas Network and Workshop 9. This is actually also a sister project of the Ocean Infohub project supported by the project office. The recent IOC Capacity Development Survey incorporated questions for and relevant to the Ocean Infohub project, and this will be repeated so we can track change over time. We've had significant regional engagement, including meetings and webinars. We use the website to communicate information, news items, and media feeds. And we're currently using the IOD social media channels, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. And I would encourage or implore you to follow these channels and to share information onwards wherever possible and relevant to your own networks. We use mailing lists. We have a general mailing list, a technical mailing list, and a mailing list for each of the 3 regions, but we use these only for important communications, and our regular communication uses Slack and email. Slack is a useful platform because it can keep track of information under different channels and can allow ongoing asynchronous discussion over time. We also provide project updates on the website, Slack, GitHub, and as I mentioned, infrequent email updates. For the quarter going forward, we have multiple outreach activities ongoing and planned, and examples include, for example, preparation and abstract submission for the International Ocean Data Conference 2022, as well as ongoing planning for that conference. And we have a submission in process, which we're working on from OIH and ODIS in support of the UN Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development. We intend to continue engaging with the Blue Cloud on the Strategic Planning 2030, as well as other initiatives such as the BB&J development of a clearinghouse mechanism. With regards to the submission from OIH ODIS in support of the UN Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development, we have a few short slides, but I'll move through these quite quickly in the interests of time and allowing us time at the end of the work package report for some more discussion. But the submission is being made in order to raise awareness of the contributions that OIH and ODIS will make to the UN Decade, raise the profiles of the project in general, and encourage support and participation in both efforts. The work will contribute to multiple goals and challenges of the UN Decade through general improvement to discovery of data and information, along with specific support focused on developing regions and capacity development. I won't go into the contributions in detail, but this presentation is available for reference after the steering group meeting. And as mentioned, the project intends to facilitate discovery of data, information, and other resource types through this ODIS lightweight metadata architecture. lower the barriers to enabling discovery of resources through development of implementation guidance, low barrier technologies, and development of reusable implementation toolkits, and advance the implementation of ODIS architecture through direct collaboration with regional partners and with a focus on developing regions. Technically, the project will work with others to prevent silos from developing, work on this implementing the lightweight architecture at the beginning, and then evolve to provide broad and deep content at a later stage. The project will deliver an interoperability layer, starting with key metadata and going to full fair and care data exchange with provenance tracking, and it will be built around a nucleus of regions and then scale out. So of course, our current status is that the Ocean Infohub project and ODIS are both established as active projects under IODE. And the projects are aligned from a visionary, technical, and implementation approach. The ODIS architecture underpins both projects and continues to develop. But the key separation between the initiatives is that OIH is based on proof of concept and including and promoting the participation of communities and regions, whereas ODIS is broader in its community. So we're working on this submission, and a draft will be shared internally, including with Flanders and Vliz before submission. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucy. Now we have a couple of minutes for questions and discussion, and then the floor is open. Just to remind you that you can ask questions also by the chat tool.
This is Sophie Seove. Can I ask a question?
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you. This sort of refers also back to Pierluigi's presentation and the mention of ODIS meetings. I was just wondering if those meetings will be the main mechanism for engagement between now and the next steering group meeting. Or if this is sort of replacing the Work Package 2 meetings with the partners that were happening throughout this year. I'm just a little bit confused on that.
So the technical Work Package meetings will continue, certainly. We make a lot of progress there. What happens is that we have our regular secretariat meetings, and we also then have regional meetings. If there are external partners or other partners that would like to, again, meet us or determine whether or not they can participate in ODIS, we often call an ad hoc meeting with those. And if that turns into a project, we integrate that into our meeting series. I think that's how it would proceed naturally. This has worked in the past just to get people up to speed. And then we can continue the sharing of documentation or bespoke recommendations in our Slack space or via email. I believe that would still be the strategy, correct, Lucy?
Thanks, Pierluigi. Yes, so we hold a small Work Package 2 meeting every 2 weeks. This is mainly to keep track of project progress, important upcoming events and issues that we need to respond to as a project. But in those meetings, we do have a lot of partners joining us, depending on the agenda from week to week. All of those meetings do appear on the Ocean Infohub project calendar, the Google Calendar. So any partners that feel they need a more hands-on feeling of where the project is at is welcome to join those meetings. We haven't planned a series of technical meetings as we held last year towards the end of 2020, because we've been focusing on the proof of concepts and working bilaterally with the implementation partners. However, we're open to guidance from the steering group, and if you feel that there is a gap of any kind, we can try to fill that the most effective way possible. I know people don't enjoy having additional meetings on their schedule, but what we can do is use our regular meeting slot, and we can build in perhaps more items on those agendas where necessary. So basically, yes, our work package 2 meetings will continue every 2 weeks, but we also open to suggestions on how to involve more partners on a regular basis. So if you have any suggestions, they're very welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it could be useful to have, I mean, again, you know, everyone's got enough meetings to attend, but maybe a 1 or 2 between now and you know, this time next year, just a relatively short meeting to update on, you know, where you're at with the on the integration side of things. And you know, I think it will be useful for partners or potential partners to see which proof of concepts have worked and where the issues have been, and to find out how they can also try to get involved.
Thank you, Sophie.
I think that would be a great suggestion. We could look at every 2 to 3 months, hold a general work package 2 meeting on an update of work package 2 across the board with status and progress with all the partners. And that would be a useful time to remind everyone where the documentation is and also get feedback from the community. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Sophie, Pierluigi, Lucy. And I think we can move on to next agenda item, budget. Lucy, you have the floor.
Thank you, Federico. This is not a detailed budget presentation. It follows the format that we used last year, which was just to report back on general cost savings and delays due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and also outlines some of the costs to be spent for the upcoming quarters. So, as is common with many projects at the moment, we have made significant cost savings during 2021 as well as 2020, due to the travel restrictions being imposed as a result of the pandemic. Some meetings might still need to be held, and it's difficult to predict the course of the pandemic in the future. So we had to find a balance between spending additional funds on getting work done, for example, on ODIS, while still retaining reserves to enable travel when permitted. Some of the costs to be spent for the remainder of 2021 and into 2022, including of activities at the IOC Subcommission for Africa, on which Mika has already reported, costs of aqueducts maintenance, a contract for the ongoing development of the ODIS architecture. We had one contract which was completed after 8 months, and a second call is currently open to continue this work. And then yet another contract in support of the ODIS architecture development. As I mentioned, we are currently working with 28 implementation partners, and it's beyond the abilities of one subcontractor to both develop documentation, testing, and work with all the partners. So the second contract is primarily to work with those partners, as well as the work package 2 team in general. We have a contract also, a call also for developing the global search hub. And this, as was previously mentioned under work package 2, is a global demonstration of the OIH. That call is currently open. We also intend to co-finance Pacific Small Island Developing States regional activities, support further development of the clearinghouse mechanism for the transfer of marine technology in the Latin America and Caribbean region and the inclusion of additional regional partners. We also intend to obviously cover the costs of meetings and online translation services, as well as science communication services, including the development of a short video and graphics. And this is something that's been specifically requested by our regions to better enable the communication of Ocean Infohub and ODIS concepts to member states and to national partners. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucy. The floor is now open from question and remarks. I start to saying that the time we have to follow all this meeting, it's not possible to get a detailed but get explanation. And then if someone has some specific question, and then I suggest to ask Lucy directly by email. Yeah. And now the floor is open for, if you have some question. I see one observation. It's not a question, but a support to Sophie's suggestion toward partners and also new users. There's a comment from Anne-Catherine Lescrowet. I don't know if I have pronunciation correctly, but I see Pierluigi raised his hand.
Yes. Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
Thank you, Federico. Just a short comment on this other contractor that we had. As Lucy mentioned, we see that there's a need not only to have a central technology developer, but also have a technology developer that is dedicated to the hubs or dedicated to the regional hubs and the regional partners and also other implementation partners. This from the chair's perspective on work package 2, this is a very significant development, I think, in terms of digital strategy and policy, that we do need much more of that. There are many projects that exist today that are developing wonderful solutions, but rarely with dedicated time to talk to regional partners, maybe a workshop here or there. But I'm very excited about that and excited we have the opportunity to dedicate a technical expert with a mix of skills between technology and understanding regional needs, having that sort of perspective. So that's actually, I think, one of the outcomes of our reshuffling of budgets or a reshuffling of priorities based on the interactions with our implementation partners. That excites me, because I think that is going to be much more of the future character of, let's say, UN-linked data systems as we try to get concrete regional representation. We'll need more people like that. And I'm very interested to see what kind of profiles we can attract with that, that combination of skills in our terms of reference. Just a short intervention there. Thank you, Federico.
Thank you, Pierluigi. Well, I see no more hands are risen. And then, Lucy, I think we can move on to item 6. That is report on action from steering group Ocean Infohub number 1, the first meeting last year.
Thank you, Federico. This will appear in the report as well. So I'll move through these items fairly quickly. These are actions that were requested from the first session of the steering group meeting last year. So this is just a report back on what we have done in response to each of these actions. We were requested to continue the work in the 3 regions following regional work plans. This was done as planned. We were requested to review the applications and hire the subcontractor for work package 2. And this was done. Our subcontractor, Doug Fills, was hired and he has now completed his contract. A new terms of reference is currently an open call. Number 3, continue the ODIS architecture development as per the work plan and the proposed work of the subcontractor on the schema.org, and this was done as per the terms of his contract. Convene regional meetings for each region and one for EU partners. So we were requested to convene 4 regional meetings during Q4 of 2020, and this was done. 4 regional meetings were held. Within Work Package 5, we were asked to convene 5 thematic meetings for people and institutions, documents and best practices, maps and spatial data, training opportunities and vessels, also in Q4. And these 5 meetings were held, plus the 6th meeting was held also on projects. We were asked to consider a global oceans meeting in the spirit of Ocean Ops, both within the Ocean Infohub project, but also more broadly within the context of IOC and other partners. And although this is not something we can take credit for, we are contributing to the planning of the International Ocean Data Conference, the data we need for the ocean we want, which would be held in Poland as a hybrid event in February 2022. And the link to the conference is included. We were asked to facilitate an online voting process for the election of a chair for the Ocean Infohub steering group. And this was completed. Our current chair, to whom we are very grateful for his work over the year, Federico Noguera, was elected. We were requested to share steering group reports in advance of meetings and allocate less time for reporting and more time for discussion. So we have tried to do this during this session to have more time for questions and discussion. We were asked to focus on developing some tangible use cases to demonstrate the Ocean Infohub to end users by the end of 2020. So the 6 thematic meetings towards the end of 2020 had a focus on use cases and implementation partners. And now the global search demonstration site can also be used as a demo for end users. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucy. And then the floor is open for questions and comments. Please feel free to ask questions.
I have another question, if I may. Sophie Stave. So one of the contracts that is now coming to an end and being re-advertised, does that necessarily mean there will be a change in the contractor, or could it be the same contractor reappointed?
We're open to the same contractor reapplying. It is an open call, so anyone who's qualified can apply for those calls. There are 2 calls open at the moment, just to clarify, for supporting the development of the ODIS architecture. So that's 2 either consultants or companies that we're looking for, and we are also looking for somebody to support the development of that global search hub. So in fact, we have 3 terms of reference calls out at the moment. These have been shared through our media channels, but if you'd like me to share links directly with you, I'll do that by email.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead, Cesar.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Adelante, Cesar.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like just to, Lucy, if you are so kind to elaborate on the way how you are measuring the performance when you are reporting these actions, etc. We need to, in order to see the progress, it will be important to have to measure that, how we are measuring whether we are fulfilling those actions, etc. And that goes for the entire elements in the project, the coordination, etc. because in order to have the sense if we are going the right way, we need to have some kind of metrics. So if you would like to elaborate on this, that will help us to understand whether we are going in the right track or we need to have some adjustment in this dynamic progress. Thank you.
Thank you, Cesar. Absolutely, it's important to measure progress, and we do have a monitoring and evaluation table. It's mostly geared towards the evaluation of the uptake and the exchange of products. So it's really only now that we will be starting to measure the flow of information using the ODIS architecture. We obviously have other metrics that we need to report on as a project, such as number of people trained, number of training course modules, and things like that. But again, this is something that the work package is only starting now. So we have the project tracking sheet from which the 5 tables in the annotated agenda are taken. So those are the tables showing the timelines and the deliverables of the project per work package. So overall, I've presented those tables in this meeting because it was relevant to be discussing the deliverables with regards to our progress. But yes, we will be collecting metrics as more and more partners join and implement ODIS.
Thank you, Lucy. We have another hand raised, Anne-Catherine, please. You have the floor.
Thank you. Hello. Yes, me again. 2 questions. First of all, thanking you all, this great team, and asking you how we can help to be ambassadors in the forward-looking part of the project that is ahead. And a specific question relating to the aspect of co-creation, and if I can call it in another way, referring to what Gert Verreet said in terms of this project meeting the needs of users in as far as possible. Now, we of course do appreciate what Pierluigi said, that the project has been focusing a lot and should so in this first stage on technical development. We also appreciate that there has been a lot of meetings on specific topics such as the projects, the vessels, etc. And we also appreciate a lot what Pierluigi said about this a person, if I can call it a facilitator between the regional needs and the regional hubs, etc. So I'm coming to my question now. So forward-looking, what opportunities, what elasticity do you foresee in the project of taking this forward? So I mean, tapping really the needs of the users. So it has been addressed in this meeting, for which we thank you. But I think this is also an excellent opportunity to listen to you. You're in the field, you're working with users. So could you, I know this is not a black and white question, it's not part of the reporting specifically, but could you give us a feel, maybe Lucy or Pierluigi, of how you see this? Thank you. Difficult
Thank you, Anne. Yes, if I can respond to your question about end users and relevance of the work that we're doing to them. I think this is obviously the core driver of the project as a whole. This is the reason why we're doing the work we're doing. There has been somewhat of a focus on technology development because we needed to show proof of concept, and we needed to show proof of concept in order to explain to implementing partners and potential partners what the power and the value of the system could be. But now we really see the critical role of the 3 regions in linking this technology development with those end users. And I'll use the Pacific region as one example. The portals that currently exist are there to serve member states and to answer very specific questions that are driven by those member states and that are directed to those portals. And it's a fantastic opportunity for us to enable greater flow of information from global IOC databases through those portals to end users in those member states. And that's really what we're going to have a focus on with our implementation partners, is working with our partners to demonstrate those use cases and actually show how the information from global databases is taken up. So not only to specific national institutions, but also for national reporting requirements, and also in support of the UN Decade for Sustainable Ocean Science.
Thank you, Lucy.
And from the technology side, I always zoom out a little bit and remember that, well, what is technology? It's something that helps us do things work faster, right? That is good technology. And as Lucy said, the first wave is to show that it works and that it can be sustained at not too high of a premium, that we haven't or we don't intend to build something that will require partners to reconfigure or reinvest to change their platforms, because that would be a barrier to participation. So it was very important for us to show that you can participate in ODIS, you can be an ODIS node without changing the way that you work. There's a reason you work that way. But you can just link into the system. Now that that demonstration is done, those thematic areas where we're sharing data about vessels, about training opportunities, experts and institutions, those again are showing that those are the concerns of many end users currently. Many end users want to look at those entities. And then in the ODIS architecture, we can expand that list according to what we hear from our other partners. That is indeed in the terms of reference of the contractors coming in, to expand that list based on what we hear from our partners, and also to show the partners how to do it themselves. And again, that's the sustainability aspect. It does not require, even now, it does not require a central system or authority other than editorial control to check that it works. But once we develop that, we hope to empower the regions to independently add new themes so that they can be automatically checked with the validation we spoke about earlier, and that the system can grow by itself in a way, organically, with some oversight, just to make sure that things are working. That is then maintainable at a reasonable cost in the long term. And really, we do want this to be a long-term solution. So in sum, the technology is close to the needs. Otherwise, we wouldn't develop it. In the sense, it has to satisfy somebody's work or somebody's mission. It has to help them do that. And that's, again, the spirit that we have in Work Package 2, with our first nucleus to show that the technical implementation is not prohibitive.
Thank you, Pierluigi. Let's move on to the next item of the agenda. Lucy, you have the floor.
Thank you, Federico. The next item is on election of the chair. And as I mentioned, Federico Nogueira was elected as chair of our steering group after the first session through an online voting process. And we're very grateful for his time and attention to the work plan over the course of the year. He's attended numerous technical meetings and participated very actively in the project over this course of time. However, due to factors beyond his control, he said that unfortunately he's not going to be available for re-election, although he'll follow the project as much as possible. So we'd like to say a very big thank you to Federico for being our chair and continuing to be our chair until we are successful at electing a new chair. And the process for this will be the same as last year. I would like to request nominations, either self-nominations or online or other nominations of somebody else, to my email address by Friday the 15th of October. I will send out a reminder by email as well, after which an online voting poll will be set up and circulated, and there'll be an online voting process. The reason we have to do this is because there are two sessions. This is session A, and later on today we'll be holding session B. So we need to have a process that is equal to all. Thank you. Any questions on the voting process?
Just for clarification, I would like to tell everyone that I'm unavailable due to health constraints. I've had a heart attack in the middle of August, and I didn't fully recover yet. And then I'm sure that this important project needs someone that could put all the energies on it. And I was advised to retreat. And then I would like to thank all the IODE team, especially to Lucy Scott, that was my guard angel all this time. And then I would like to thank her and her team for all the support I've had during this year. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Frederico, and thank you very much for supporting the project through this time, and we wish you a complete and speedy recovery.
Well, I'm sure we will find a fully skilled people to occupy this post. And thank you, Sophie, for your comment on the chat. And I think if you find it properly, I would like to be kept in the mailing list in order to allow me to follow the project. It's a very important project. Cesar, you asked for the floor.
No, Peter is asking for the floor.
No, it was me, I think. Okay. Frederico, I'm so sorry to hear about your health problem. I was not aware, but and we thank you, of course, for all the hard work you have carried out to launch this ship at the Ocean Infohub, and we wish you good recovery. And rest assured, you will always be one of the original fathers of Ocean Infohub. So thank you very much, and well, I'm sure we'll see you again.
Thank you, Peter. Now the next agenda item is number 8, concerns about the third section of the steering group on Ocean Infohub. And then we may have two options, and to make it 6 months ahead or 1 year ahead. I think that the technical aspects of all the work packages may be treated along the year with specific people and regions. And the first meeting was held a year ago. And then I suggest that we hold the next meeting in the next October with a big chance to make it face-to-face. It would be because the technology has given us a gift to make a remote meeting that was very, very useful and very productive, but nothing substitute a face-to-face meeting. And please, you can laugh at me if you want, but the coffee break is very important. Not to drink coffee and eat something, but to solve some questions then could be left to the plenary already solved. And then I hope the next meeting could be face-to-face. And then I think you don't need to answer now, but as soon as possible, because Peter and Lucy need time to prepare it. And I would like to remind you that we will have another section of this meeting that will cover all the agenda items scheduled to 7 p.m. Greenwich time, in order to allow a comfortable attendance for people from all time zones. Lucy, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Federico. And we take that proposal of working towards a face-to-face meeting in 12 months' time, October 2022. We'll work towards that, and we very much hope that that can take place. Before we close, I think if everyone could switch on your cameras and we could take a group photo, that would be great.
Sure. Please, I ask you all to turn your cameras on. Elsa, tell us when ready.
Yes, thank you. Many are putting their cameras on. Great. Please give us a great smile. 3, 2, 1. Excellent. Let's do one more because we have another page. 3, 2, 1. Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. From my side, I'd just like to thank all of the participants and presenters, and again, the entire team for your support in the preparation of the report. Thank you for the discussion, and thank you very much to our chair, Federico, for leading us through the process. As he mentions, we do have another stator today, but I'm sure I won't see many of the same faces. We'll be covering the same agenda. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter and Lucy, for trusting in me. And I'm sure that you will find another person best fitted and more capable to follow with this process. And then I would like to be kept in the mailing lists in order to follow it. Thank you very much, you all.
Thanks all.
Bye-bye. Thanks, Federico.
Ciao, everyone. Thank you for your attention.
Thanks all.
Thank
you, Federico. Bye.